Up next, it is Benjamin, and he's going to give us his verdict on plans to ditch shorter prison sentences. It's time for Benjamin's bugbear.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's time to abolish short prison sentences. The kind of sentences that are a couple of months or even a couple of weeks. These are handed out to people who commit crimes like shoplifting or non-violent minor incidents. Now, those crimes can have a very real effect on society around them. But sending someone to prison for a matter of weeks who's been doing petty theft, well, not only does that cost a fortune, but what it also does is socialise often young petty criminals into serious, organised, hardline criminals. And it also often takes away their chances of getting a proper job and earning an honest wage. So that's why I think short sentences should be dropped, because they just don't work. Look at the evidence. The reoffending rate for people that have been to prison for a couple of months as opposed to a couple of years is double. 50% of people on short sentences go on to reoffend. So clearly it's not teaching them a lesson. What I say is that we should spend that money on having people that can rehabilitate these people, better probation officers, to try and integrate them back into the community. Because short sentences don't work. Let's spend the money on rehabilitation for petty thieves and not integrating them into hardline criminals for a couple of months behind bars. Now, Darren, what do you think?
I think that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You are basically saying that you want to turn this country into San Francisco, a Democrat-ran hellhole, which is crime-ridden, and in which people there is lawlessness like you wouldn't believe. You basically want us to be a lawless hellhole in which people can shoplift. Rehabilitation, pull the other one. They've got about as much chance of that as, you know, someone who is totally and utterly addicted to drugs. It is a very, very hard ask. You think that getting someone in to deal with these people on God knows how much in the way of taxpayer cash is going to sort them out? The only reason you want these people off on the streets is so they can vote Labour.
What a load of nonsense. Look, 50% of people who go into prison go on to re-offend. So this system means that there are more crimes because they're not getting out of those habits. And they meet people who often drag them further into that world. So that doesn't work. And when you talk about lawless hellhole, I mean, America is a terrible example because they incarcerate more people than any democracy in the world, and they have very high crime rates. So clearly, there isn't a great correlation. We have twice as many people in prisons in this country today than we did 30 years ago, and yet petty crime is on the rise.
But Benjamin, I've got to say, I mean, I know you don't like short sentences because your monologues always go on too long for me, but if you are saying that 50% of people who go into prison with a short sentence reoffend, that means 50% don't. For 50%, it totally works 100% of the time.
I mean, that's a very expensive way to do things. And one of the problems we have with our prison system is that we don't prepare them to leave prison. So you have somebody who's probably turned to crime because they don't know any better, they've not been taught the kind of boundaries and morals that we should have. It's not guessing at all. These are absolutely what people in the sector say.
They probably didn't know any better. I'm pretty sure.
Well, clearly they don't know any better.
Do know better. I think actually you're insulting the criminals by saying that they're not intelligent enough to know what they're doing. Many of them do. Ultimately, let's think about the reality of this. If we completely abolish less than a year prison sentences, that means you're taking away that choice from judges. It also means that there will be crimes that did have a prison sentence that now won't. When you're taking away that crime, you're taking away that punishment, you're effectively saying that those crimes are completely okay to happen.
But you're not at all, because they should have community punishments that make them actually change the behaviour. The goal of prison is to get someone to learn the lesson and to change the behaviour.
Well,
if they're not changing their behaviour, you're wasting your money.
I think the goal of prison can in some cases be to change behaviour, but it can also just be to remove problematic people from society and so that everyone else can just live their lives.
And punish them.
I think there is an important point that maybe you're missing, which is at the moment we don't have enough space in prisons. I think there's only about 650.
Under the Tories, we don't even lock up rapists.
I'm making a point for you, Benjamin, and that we don't lock up even serious criminals. So what Alex Chalk, the Justice Secretary, is proposing is that we reduce the number of sentences that we give out for petty crime so that we can lock up actual criminals. I actually think we need to just be building more prisons
Yes.
and locking up people for a longer amount of time, because actually I want to see less criminals.
Can I just say, this is a ridiculous thing to say, because one of the reasons why someone is going to return to stealing is because they don't have another option available to them. They probably don't have a serious education. Once they've been to prison, it makes it even harder to get a job. If you're cornering them to keep behaving like that, you're not benefiting society.
What?
You're just feeling good about being mean.
Infantilising, patronising nonsense. They don't have any other option. Don't put things that aren't yours in your pockets. That's an option.
I mean, Darren, it's not only theft. We're talking about burglary. We're talking about people that are going to enter somebody else's home and take things from them. I do not think that these people should be walking the streets without having been to prison.
So, for example, Benjamin, you unfortunately were mugged in London. Should he have not gone to prison?
Well, that was a violent incident because they strangled me and threatened me with a knife. So I don't think violent incidents would be in this, because that's more serious. But I just think this idea that you can simply throw someone in a cage for a few weeks and then expect that they're going to be a different person when they come out is clearly preposterous. And it's a very expensive way to do things.
It works 50% of the time. So then if you arrest somebody again, it's 75% of the time. And then again, it's,
But, our reoffending rates in this country are much higher than many of our European counterparts. So clearly
we've got stuff worth nicking.
Right. Every time someone does another offence, that's, 40 grand a year for them to be in prison.
Hey, we could have went on and on with that one, but unfortunately we haven't the time.